Everybody, welcome to the second episode of the rebranded Dreaming About podcast. I am so excited for this podcast, and I got a great story to start the podcast off with how we got co-host Brendan to join last second and last minute. Thanks to yours truly, myself, forgetting to remind him that this podcast was tonight. I love you, Brendan.
Thanks, Diego.
Yeah. I think it goes great. I think it was a great idea. It's good content right there.
He looks like he loves and respects you so much.
I genuinely love and respect him. He does so much for the channel. It's actually insane. Like the overlay, the graphics, almost 90% of everything is like done by Brendan. I will say that.
Man, maybe I'd be able to contribute more if he'd actually give me the Cali footage, man.
Ooh.
I gotta get on that, my dude. I gotta get on that.
Ooh.
So I'd like to give a big special welcome, as you guys have probably noticed. We have a very special guest today, a phenomenal host to an amazing podcast known as 100 Talk Pod. They talk about everything 100 Thieves related. They do a phenomenal job at getting some of the biggest people from 100 Thieves on their show. I don't know how you guys do it. I can't wait to talk about it if you're willing to share the secrets or just the stories of how you even like ended up talking to these amazing people on 100 Thieves. It's phenomenal. It's great to have you, man.
Yeah, thank you. You've always been just a huge supporter of us, which we're always grateful for. Like, I always make comments about this, but like I'll show up in your chat during your stream and be like, "Oh, it's 100 Talk!" Oh, and you go off and like, I just wish I had that energy for everybody around me. I really admire that.
Thank
but
you. I
I'm
appreciate it.
super happy to be here and just have a like talk something different than we usually do. You know, like it's nice to just be doing this and it's a change of pace, which
it's always good. Always good.
Yeah.
A break, change of pace, just something to spice it up, you know?
Yeah.
So how's your day been? How's the week been for you?
Man, the week itself was crazy. It was just like a lot of stuff going on at work. But in the background, we've been working on prepping a new stream, which we're actually going to be launching a little bit after this. So Jordan and I have been, Jordan's my co-host for if any of you may have even seen him come on this show a couple months ago, I think. But yeah, so Jordan and I have been working on this new stream, and it launches tonight, and that's been a lot of fun to get ready for and figure out what it's going to feel like.
Right.
And so that combined with a crazy week of work, it's been a little nutty, but it's the weekend, man. So
it's the
I'm
weekend.
really happy.
Hopefully you got
I
a little bit of a break.
Poro ball like this. When is the weekend? I need a Poro ball that I can just toss around. And
I gotta say, Brendan, you have some of the best merch like in the game. He got me a scarf from Fairy Tale, Natsu. I don't know if you've seen the anime. Dude, I love that scarf so much. I still have it. It's like hung up on my in my room. No joke.
I don't know if it ever gets cold enough in Austin, Texas to fucking wear that thing, but maybe, just maybe.
Yeah, you get 1 week out of the year to wear your scarf, but that's every day. That's 7 days of flexing.
7 days of flexing, right? I will say, I just got this windbreaker from 100 Thieves, not to flex, and I got a lot of jackets coming from New York City. And as much as I love Texas, it is a shame I cannot wear half of the clothes I own or really rep 100 Thieves in the street without like drowning in sweat.
Yeah, they got that LA thing going. They're ignorant of anybody who doesn't have perfect weather.
Yeah,
Thing back here, the tricolor hoodie, dude. This thing is heavy.
Is it really?
No joke. Yeah, and so that's one. I live in Nashville.
Right.
And this is one that I'm only going to get to pull out for about a month a year too. So
yeah, it's
We're there
tough,
for
man.
9 months out of the year.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's cold where you live, isn't it, Brendan?
Oh, bro, like negative 40 during like 5 months out of the year. Yeah, it's kind of cold.
Just a little bit, just a little bit. Lot of snow.
You know, Diego, how was your week this week?
You know, it's been a really good day. I will say the biggest reason why I forgot to tell you that we were having the podcast tonight is we've been busy, man. I got so much content planned for the podcast specifically. One, I've had the amazing honor to have you on board for this episode. And then right after this episode, we're going to have another big shot coming in onto the show from the Final Fantasy community.
Bro, I don't
And
know anything about Final Fantasy.
dude, it's okay. That's fine.
You don't have.
You don't have to. It'll be a learning process for the both of us. It'll be great too. You'll be like the representation of the League community trying to understand what is Final Fantasy.
That's right. You're like the everyman.
Right.
Oh,
You know, you're just finding your way through the challenges.
And as much as I want to say that we're focusing on the quality of the podcast, we're still trying to figure it out. And dude, it's an honor to have someone that actually knows how to do a podcast, how to run a podcast. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's a strong praise, man. We're just
look,
kind of figuring out what we're doing.
I think your growth speaks for itself, you know?
Well, yeah, actually, you know, we have had a good amount of growth this year, and it's interesting. We're actually coming up on the 1 year anniversary of the pod, so that's in 2 days.
Nice.
And it's kind of fun to look back and think about when Jordan and I just did this, not knowing if anyone would ever pay attention or listen.
Right.
But we had a lot of like fortuitous timing that just gave us some earlier opportunities, and from that, the people who happened to stumble into what we were doing, such as yourself, have just been awesome. And so we've got like a little tight knit community,
Right.
And it's a very welcoming place, and it's fun. And so I think that kind of, you know, helps people to stick around once they do stumble upon us. So, you know, it's a small thing that we got going on, but you know, we're growing it, and it's developing, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, how was that? What inspired you to just to start the podcast about 100 Thieves? Like, what made you go from, hey, I really like this organization, to I kind of just want to spend like so much of my time talking about everything they do and just show how big of a fan you are?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question, especially because for those who might not be familiar, Jordan and I are not super League knowledgeable. So we came into 100 Thieves to watch the League of Legends team develop, like when 100 Thieves was really starting.
Yep.
And I hadn't even played before I heard of 100 Thieves.
Oh, wow.
And Jordan sent me the first, like, I don't even think it was officially the heist yet. It might have been the first episode, but
Right.
there was a We Signed Aframu video, right?
Oh,
And
I remember that one.
Might not have been. But he sent me that, and I had been totally out on esports before this. Like, I played video games all my life,
Right.
and always loved them, but I was never like an esports guy, right? But he sent me that, and I was like, holy cow, man. Like, first of all, Nade Shot is super compelling as a dude.
He's a phenomenal. He's so his charisma is off the charts.
He likes anime.
Yeah.
He likes anime. My Hero Academia fan on his Instagram. He was videotaping the episode where Midoriya is fighting Muscular. Oh my dude, that episode was so great.
That's a major selling point for me. So
Yeah. Well, and even before that was really out there, you know, I just watched him tell the story about what he was trying to build.
Right.
And it was incredibly compelling. And then the signing of Aframu being someone who also like kind of breaks the mold from what I expected from an esports personality.
Yep, I agree.
So I saw that and I was like, this is totally different than I expected. And it actually feels, and this is a terrible word to throw out there, but it actually feels cool to me, right? Like,
Yeah.
Even though I was a gamer, I was like, okay, I'm a gamer, but that's because I'm a huge nerd.
Right.
But this didn't feel as I expected it for esports. So anyway, Jordan had been trying to like get me to play League for months leading up to that. And once I saw that video, I installed a League client that day and like played through the training and everything. And I was like, okay, I got to understand this. And just from that point, I watched every piece of content. I tuned into the League games. And Jordan and I were so into it, we just had these conversations. And we just said, well, look, we love sports podcasts, especially like I come from traditional sports fandom, you know?
Right.
Like I listen to so many sports podcasts. I love following sports media. I love how it's been developed. You know, everything about that is really attractive to me. And I noticed it was very underdeveloped
Right.
in esports. So I was like, look, we're having these conversations anyway, and there's no one else really doing this same thing.
Yep.
And it's quite obvious that it would be, a successful idea. Like
Right.
even if we weren't the ones who to have success with it,
Right.
the concept of having like a team-based podcast
Podcast.
run by fans,
Yep.
it's so obvious,
Yeah.
right? Like it's something that should be done. And again, if it's not us that'll be successful in the long run, someone else will. So
Right.
we just said, let's go for it. Let's start talking about these things, and really just push record, from there. And it was a little bit scary because none of us, like I said, knew what we were doing in the beginning. But we've kind of been able to learn the game of League of Legends, then move over and learn some Call of Duty stuff too, and bring our kind of natural understanding of traditional sports operations
Right.
to fill in the background of everything for people. So that's kind of just how it's progressed. And like I said, we had a lot of fortunate timing and coincidences along the road that just helped us to
Grow.
level up just a little bit,
Yep.
every now and again. So it's been great.
That's awesome. Talking about the level up and the coincidences, I remember one podcast where you were talking about 100 Thieves. I'm trying to think what the topic was. I think it was our second LCS game, or like third LCS game. And the very next podcast, before it actually aired, you tweeted that you were sponsored by 100 Thieves. It was your first sponsorship for a giveaway of, was it the cream hoodie or no? It wasn't.
Yeah,
the cream,
it was the
was
cream
it the cream hoodie, dude. And I was like, wait, hold up. I've been seeing these guys since like day 2, day 3, and now they're sponsored. Like, what happened to what happened that got you that sponsorship? Like, how did you get in touch with the 100 Thieves? Did they reach out to you, or did you reach out to them? And
Yeah. So here's how it happened. We kind of have to back up a little bit from that because, like I said, a lot of that stuff was lucky timing for us. Okay.
Right.
And one of the things that happened was the Meteos trade.
got it.
So if fans, remember way back in the day, in early 100 Thieves, it seems like eons ago that we were like first place team.
Yeah, I remember that.
Ha!
But we when the Meteos trade happened, I think the tweet happened. And actually, to tell the story of the trade itself, Meteos himself tweeted when he wasn't actually supposed to.
Right.
He didn't realize.
Yeah, I remember that. There was
He
a
didn't
huge
realize-
scandal behind it.
Right. Yeah. He didn't know. Like
Yeah.
he wasn't trying to be malicious with it.
No, he wasn't.
But he did tweet out that he had been traded before it was really like set to be known.
Yep.
And that happened, I think, literally 10 or 15 minutes before we went live for our show.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, I didn't even know when we were prepping to go live. And
Right.
Jordan told me as we were getting on, he's like, huh,
Oh,
Meteos
that's
got traded.
spicy.
Wait, what?
That is
What are you talking
spicy.
Yeah. And so because of that, we had the first in-depth conversation about the Meteos trade that was on the internet, basically.
Right.
So that episode of the show, we had been getting, just a few dozen views for each episode up to that point. When the Meteos trade happened, all of a sudden we had like 1,000 views on that one episode. So we knew people were listening.
Right.
Around the same time, I had found the 100 Thieves Discord and had started to just kind of poke around there. And one day, Jackson, who is the head of business development, and he's also like the league GM, at least
Yep.
for now. He's gonna be phased out later, but and he was in the Discord at the same time I was, and he recognized my profile picture,
Oh, wow.
and he matched it to
The Twitter.
my personal Twitter account.
Got it.
Okay. And he was like, wait, there's this guy who has this podcast about 100 Thieves. Is this you? Like, he sent me a message. He was like, is this you? I was like, yeah. And it turns out I think he found us during the Meteos thing when he was, kind of taking the community temperature about the trade. And he had seen our conversation because SEO shot us up in the search results.
Right.
And from there, he was kind of constantly in touch with us about the pod.
Yep.
So he's always been a supporter of what we've done. And he kind of spread the word to the rest of the office. So we're not like an official 100 Thieves podcast or anything.
Yeah.
But they know who we are. We've done the Academy streams with them.
Yep.
The cream hoodie thing, it was basically like they were looking to
Spread their name out and connect with the community.
right, create the buzz around the drop. and just graciously offered that to us.
That is amazing.
In fact, I think he sent me messages like, "Hey, I want to send you guys a cream hoodie," and I was like, I would love to actually give one away
Right.
on the show. So if I can do that, and so they sent us hoodies, and they also sent us an extra one to give away.
That is
So
awesome.
it was really cool of them. Like, I think that story will probably go unnoticed by most people,
Right.
but it speaks volumes to how 100 Thieves
How
operates.
much they pay attention to the community. I think
Yeah.
one thing that kind of blows my mind recently, especially, is after the Meteos trade, they got a lot of flack for not paying attention to the community when behind the scenes, Jackson Doll specifically, and Nate Shot, to be quite honest with you, they do such a good job at paying attention to media outlets. And the fact that they caught on to you right when the Meteos trade happened, they remembered you and were like, hey, we should reach out to them and, not incentivize, but like make sure that like the truth is spoken and communicate with you to communicate with the community like, hey, it's not as bad as you think, and go on from there,
Well, actually, I should say this. Like, they have never influenced the message that we deliver
Right.
in any sort of way. So, really, like all they were doing was showing support for content creators that were in the space.
Right.
We've had conversations on on our podcast with like Blake Robbins, who was part of the investment group
Yep.
that raised the funding for 100 Thieves, and some other people on staff as well, that they just said they couldn't believe that a fan podcast emerged so soon.
Yeah.
That was consistent and somewhat real, and that to them was a good sign for what they were doing, right? That people out there care enough to sit there and talk about it. And so really all of that support has just been out of a gratitude, and it's a really humble gratitude, to be honest, because like I said, we are small potatoes to them,
Right.
but at the same time they are very gracious for us. They sent us like the drop that's on hanging up behind me, that was sent to me by them as well. So they continue to support us, and they don't ever influence the message that we deliver. They're
Yep.
fine when we criticize. It's just like a
Speaks
wonderful,
speaks
mature
volumes of the
thinking.
organization.
Yeah, and I don't think like the 100 Thieves community as a whole really gets that.
Yeah.
Like, we're a really good example of just how seriously they take it
Mm-hmm.
and how mature they are about it. And that for me was a great sign. Like, I remember the first time we got in touch with them and we had these exchanges. I told Jordan, I was like, well, we sure picked the right team.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of great orgs out there. I've had the chance to meet or interact with some of the other GMs or whatever, and
Yep.
like they've been great, but I'm not sure that all the other teams operate at the same level that 100 Thieves do.
Right. I'm gonna ask you this question, Brendan, because you've been following esports a lot longer than I have, and you've been a fan of Cloud9, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
What was your first impressions, non-biased from me, because I speak so highly of the organization. I love everything that they do. But what was your first impressions after the Meteos trade happened, and you had all these people talking about 100 Thieves, and even now with the whole like Aphromoo should retire, or they're not doing a great job with the coach,
Spam
and
this fire to make
yeah,
Aphromoo retire.
dude, that drives me insane watching that in the Twitch chat. I'm just like, I'm gonna go a little bit off tangent, but as a sports fan since I was a kid, Chicago Cubs and Los Angeles Lakers specifically, right? I find it crazy. I don't know if it's maybe just the people that watch 100 Thieves, but I feel like there's more. I want to be very careful with how I say this. There aren't as many loyal fans in esports yet, maybe because it's a new space, as there is in the sports community. I feel
like maybe not team loyalty.
Yeah,
like
I feel like
player loyalty, but not as much team.
Right, and I feel like a lot of that is just because, like you said, it's player loyalty. But once they start playing bad, it kind of goes sideways. Brendan?
I was gonna say I've seen a lot of good points as to why there isn't as much team loyalty as per se player loyalty. So, for example, a lot of these people do streaming. Their personalities are more readily available than, say, that of a sports player's. So, for example, I can catch Aphromoo on like a Saturday night streaming solo queue,
Right.
and see what he's like outside of his LCS games. So, wow, that's pretty cool. Like I get to interact with like my favorite pro players.
That's
You can't
fascinating.
interact with Tom Brady outside of his freaking games. Like,
Right.
What the hell?
Yeah, you're right.
And
There's like that
also-
exclusive factor.
Another pretty interesting thing is that I've seen arguments for is the geolocation of teams.
I
For
was
example,
going
there's
to
no-
mention that. You beat me to it. Go on about it.
It's just that you don't have like what is
New York City,
Like,
New York City Knicks or Miami Heat.
yeah, you don't have that like core like that location. Like, oh hey, I'm here. I feel like
A
I
part of
should
the
root for them
community. I
because
should
live
root
here.
for them because I
Like,
live
yes.
here. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I actually a couple of good points were raised on this topic to me because really around the Meteos trade and then what happened afterwards with Cody Sun and Rikara on our team.
Right.
I used to get into it with people a lot, like on Twitter and Reddit, because I guess this is just my perspective or whatever. I
Right.
tend to be more team and org sympathetic than player sympathetic.
Same.
I think just because like the experiences that I've had in my life, like I've been on that side a little bit more where there's like, oh, there's always more to the story that you're not getting or whatever. So I used to have these intense arguments with people where I would just say like, it's so obvious what happened and you're being overly sympathetic for the player.
Right.
And there were 2 points that were made to me that were really good. One is that a lot of the early esports scene, and it still goes on now, but especially, if you're looking like 5 years ago or whatever, the nature of teams was so transient that your team, your brand, even really successful ones might not be around the next year to cheer for, right? But the players would always, find a landing spot somewhere.
Right.
So it's much more easy to attach to the players than the orgs because the players are more permanent.
More
just by
permanent
nature.
than the esports organizations. Crave just mentioned that in the chat, and he
yeah.
brings up a really good point. Like, look at Optic now. Like, now they have the whole thing with them being bought out. I don't know if it's happened yet. I haven't kept up with it, but
Yeah, it's the deal has been done, and then the brand is being phased out over the next 6 months basically. So yeah, and that's Optic. We're talking Optic.
yeah, one of the biggest names in
That's
esports,
strong.
period, no matter what game it is, which is
Why?
nuts.
Yeah, so that's just insane. So that's one side of it, and then the other side of it is that a lot of fans feel that they participated in the building of the esports community, which is true to a large extent.
Yeah, to a large extent. Definitely agree.
Yeah, so they were participating. They believed in this stuff. They didn't like get born and find it there waiting for them, like say traditional sports is.
Right.
So they feel more ownership over what happens in the space than a traditional sports fan might feel about their team.
Right.
So those two things combined, like I kind of it changed my perspective a bit to where I say, okay, now I understand a little bit more about where you're coming from. You're still wrong, but I understand.
Right.
It's like one of those things. But so those are good points to keep in mind. Yeah, but it's just been one of those things where, like, the more I interact with everybody, the more I start understanding the perspective of esports fans, and that's cool. Like I should do that. We all should understand these people a little bit.
Yeah, multiple perspectives. That way, you're not making end of the day
Unless
assumptions.
it's on Reddit.
Yeah.
Unless it's on Reddit, then just don't even try.
Yeah.
Don't try.
Reddit's a fascinating space. I will say that. People are very opinionated on Reddit. They tend to stick to their
They're
guns.
wrongly opinionated.
Hey, I see some good points brought on Reddit sometimes, but I definitely say that they are more consistent with their original opinion, and some people don't like to budge on Reddit.
Well, like a lot of Reddit is a very quick take on something that is probably like over passionate.
Yep.
And then the people who have really well thought out and well reasoned takes, it's a wall of text and no one reads it. You know? So those opinions just tend to like fall by the wayside.
That makes sense.
One line or less.
One line or less. Yeah, very similar to
Who can
YouTube
make-
content.
Who can make the quickest thing to get upvoted?
yeah and
Truly.
it's so that's like another thing I've been finding out is like when you argue with people on Reddit about these things, like the most effective way to respond to anything is always to ask them a question based on their assumption that
Yeah, that's so true.
is going to like make them feel like they're wrong.
Yep.
So it's like okay, then why don't we just do this? And it's like obviously the worst decision ever.
Right.
And like okay, like that is the most efficient way to do it because it just takes one line and you just took it to its natural conclusion.
Right, and you can help lead
So,
them to,
it's
like, different perspectives and opinions.
Yeah, it's a talent, really. And I'm just starting to discover it. But I try and read Reddit and not participate too much in it because, yeah, it just can get nasty.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. I gotta say, I don't mean to gas you up. I genuinely mean this from the bottom of my heart. You guys are doing something super special, and I want to say from like even the first week, you guys are extremely consistent for a brand new podcast or a new content creator. What are some habits or systems you got in place that helps you stay consistent?
Well, I will say that that's probably the number one key to building your audience on any platform, right? Is
Right.
consistency, because not only does that psychologically matter for people who want to consume your content, but it also obviously matters for the algorithms of each platform.
Right.
They reward you when you upload consistently. So that's the thing. Now, because of what I do professionally, I'm kind of aware of that. So when Jordan and I started this thing, we knew we had to be committed to it.
Right.
And we had to find, a regular time, and we had to find a way to do it no matter what was happening. So Jordan's actually done the show on the road so many times. Like there was a stretch of about 5 weeks in a row where he was in a new place every time. It was hilarious. So it was like we made it into a joke on the show. It's like,
that's amazing. Where's
Jordan?
Jordan? Oh, that's why you guys keep saying that. I was like,
right.
Where's that come from?
Jordan.
Fascinating. Where's he gonna be today?
Yeah. So yeah, like it's just something you have to get your mind right about.
Right.
And the hardest challenge for us is the off season, because obviously when you're in season and there's games every week, there's always something to talk about, right?
Yep.
But then you get these long stretches, and like I'm dreading the post summer for this year, because there's no worlds for us to look forward to, right?
Right.
Like last year we had worlds to fall back on, so there was still like some content driving us forward. That can be like a really hard obstacle to overcome.
Right.
So we actively, way in advance, like probably 2 or 3 months in advance, we're bouncing around ideas for interviews and shows that we could do during the off season. And that's when we really started to bring guests in onto the show. Like we would get people from 100 Thieves, or we would get someone like Tim Sevenhausen from Oracle's Elixir to come on and do a statistical angle on things. Like we wanted to make sure that we had reasons for people to watch the show when there weren't games going on. That was really difficult to plan, but it paid huge dividends. Because that's when we really started getting the interviews with 100 Thieves people coming through, which obviously is going to help us a lot.
Oh yeah.
People are much more willing to listen to 100 Thieves staff than they are to me and Jordan. So
yeah. It helps that you guys are constantly consistent, though, and you actually do your homework before you speak about a topic, right?
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, we'll, especially with guest interviews, but every week, really, we have a plan, we have a rundown.
Right.
We have some normal formulaic segments that we do that don't require as much pre-planning, but we always have notes and we always have a rundown. We always communicate about the show before it happens.
Right.
So that helps us to not look so much like we don't know what we're doing.
Right.
when we get on there. So, but yeah, I would just like the consistency is the number one thing that's going to get people to latch on to you when you're starting. So even if you're unsure if you're going to be able to fill the time, it's better to do a shorter show than not to do a show and wait.
To do no show. So you think so to throw a scenario at you, if you could only do a podcast for 20 to 30 minutes, right? Compared to your typical, I think it's like an hour long, usually around 45 to an hour.
Yeah, we're usually 60 to 70 minutes.
Yeah. Would you still do it?
Oh yeah, I would. If it depends on what part of the year we're in.
Right.
We during the off season we will go to every other week sometimes.
Got it.
And it actually, more than sometimes. It's probably like half and half. Like sometimes it'll be every week, sometimes it'll be, in 2 weeks with some space between. But yeah, I think it's way better to have a show planned. Like one of the things we did in between 2018 and 2019 when we were waiting for free agency to sort itself out, so we knew what roster changes were coming, was we did like a top 15 plays show,
Right.
where Jordan and I just watched those and counted them down, and it was kind of a nonsense show, and it was a little scuffed because we didn't really know what like the setup should be or whatever. But
Yep.
it was just fun, and it was hanging around, and it was a much shorter show than we typically did, but we were there to say hi to our community and there to give people something to remember about 100 Thieves, and
Right.
that's how we see our job. So
It's a great job at pivoting the content, but still staying in line with your theme, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, something that I find fascinating between both you and Brendan is the fact that both of you have seen like incredible growth recently, and both have been because of the consistency. But you both have recently pivoted big time. You recently with going from just focusing on the league scene to Call of Duty, and then also talking about other big moves like the Courage and Nate Shot podcast and tweeting about it, right? And Brendan, you've been on the grind for social media recently too. I see you more active on Twitter. You got a Discord community now, right? Do you guys think it's necessary for every content creator? I like that. The energy, beautiful.
Yes.
He says yes and leaves.
I love it. No.
I just chucked my poro across the room.
That's
Sorry.
beautiful. No, I will say, like, you guys are doing a great job at, like, not only doing content when you stream and when you do YouTube, but also on Twitter, also on Discord, for any new content creator that wants to do something, whether it's a podcast, whether it's streaming. Do you think it's necessary for them to be on the social media grind to grow, if they want to grow? And more than a hobby for them, right?
Be smart about it. Don't spam.
Yes.
Make the right connections.
I like it.
Like, I think one of my favorite tricks is to leave witty comments on larger people's things because they'll notice you. It's surprising about the amount of people that I've gotten to notice me just because I'll comment maybe like once every other week
Right.
on their like Twitter post saying something like semi-witty,
Right.
and they'll like it. So that means obviously they looked at it and maybe they thought, "Ha, that's kind of funny." Yeah, I met actually a fair amount of people through that.
That's a huge thing. Like, and we, I don't know if you've ever. So we're super active on Twitter.
I see that.
Twitter, I think, is a wonderful platform for this kind of space. Like,
Right.
Twitter's not for everything, right? It's
I
not for
agree.
everything. It's not for everybody. But this is one of the areas where connections happen quite easily over Twitter, and it's a format that makes sense for people when they're trying to follow their esports teams. So if you look at our Twitter, we're actually like, we're not just 100 Talk, we're 100 Talk - 100 Thieves podcast. And
Right.
that's super intentional because we do the same thing. We'll comment on things. We'll comment on, like, it's the same way on YouTube. We'll comment on YouTube videos. We'll reply in threads and everything. And we try to just have fun with it.
Yep.
But people just literally see, oh, 100 Thieves podcast. What is that?
What is that? They want to check you
And
out.
yeah, we get so much inbound from that. It's crazy.
That's
and
awesome.
like, there are days where we're looking at like, oh, dude, we got like 30 new YouTube subs today, and we don't really know why because we didn't do we didn't do any sort of content. And it's like, oh yeah, I remember, like, I made that joke in like the Nade Shot tweet about this,
Right.
and that stuff makes a legitimate difference. There's like the uphill battle you always fight on social media is just awareness, like to let people know that you exist. And then
That's a good-
beyond that, for them to understand who you are.
Right.
And if you can get past those first two steps, then you can get a lot of conversions, so to speak.
Nice.
Good thing is always to make memes. Not gonna lie, making memes has probably always been my highest like fan and like my highest interaction with my Twitter followers.
Fascinating.
Is that, my normal stuff maybe gets like in between like 5 to 10 likes, but my memes easily get in between like 15 to 25 likes. So just saying, memes people love them. So if you got the brain juice for them, fucking do them as much as you can.
Yeah, it's the same on Reddit too. Like, Reddit memes like do super well.
Oh yeah, they do phenomenal. They get like hundreds and thousands of upvotes. It's insane. They trend so
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah, so that helps a lot on clicks. But I think what Brendan said earlier, about being careful, that's also something, because like, you don't want to look like you're trying too hard,
Right.
because then people just turn off to it.
Right.
You want to be genuine. You want to have your voice on there, and ours tends to be self-deprecating and kind of sarcastic, and we try to be, on the lighter side,
Right.
Which works for our brand, if you want to call it that. But you just can't overdo it. Like, you can't post the memes all the time, and you
Yeah.
can't be every comment thread doing stuff. You have to be judicious with it. But
Right.
if you're able to restrain a little bit, it helps so much.
So we got social media, we got consistency, right? If you had to sum up 3 more things or 2 more things, however much you want, that are key factors to growing as a podcast specifically for you, and Brendan, you've been blowing up big time, growing as a content creator, editor, or streamer just in general, what would be like the biggest things for the both of you? Besides social media, consistency, and networking.
I know 100 Talk Pods are no strangers to this, and they're definitely out there. Like, they talk with people. Number one thing, in my opinion, is don't be a pussy. Like, you talk with people that you wouldn't normally talk to. Like, try and reach out and find someone big.
Right. The saying
Like,
goes, never ask, never know.
Yeah, that's really insane. Like, how much time do I have left? Okay, I'm gonna keep this short. So basically, I'm a Cutie Pie's editor was like, hey, I'm looking for new video editors, and I was like, well, shit, I don't know if I'll actually make the cut or not. So I sent him my portfolio. He's like, the shit you do is actually, I quote you not, he said, too good. So he's like, if you ever want,
That's amazing.
If you ever want to make something for the channel in your style, feel free to hit me up later. So it's like, I had no fucking clue if I was gonna even like get
a response back from I'm a Cutie Pie with how big he is.
My 2 previous applications, they didn't even get back to me. Like, they didn't get back to me. Like, I applied for Swifty and a YouTuber called Ash on Law. They never got back to me.
Right.
But I was like, just keep throwing your stuff out there and make those connections, I guess, is a big thing.
Right.
That's my.
Yeah, that's massive. And I think like reaching out with no fear is a thing, because a lot of people just don't want to feel that rejection.
Right.
And rejection can even be just not getting a response or not getting a like. Right. It's not necessarily a no or like a block, right? But it can be it can just be like just not acknowledging you exist. And people don't like that either. But just reaching out, like, the secret to life is that everybody wants to feel good and have positive interactions with people.
I couldn't say it better.
And on social media, that can be kind of rare.
Yeah,
right?
seriously.
So a lot of the times, like, yeah, just go ahead and like hop into conversations with people, with bigger people even, and do so respectfully and have like positive interactions with them, and that can do a whole lot. And be open to the opportunities for community building too, because like I've met a whole bunch of journalists or podcasters who are way smarter and more articulate than we are.
Right.
And they're open to collaboration and they respect what we do. And, I think it's just because we try and be honest and positive.
Right.
And that can, multiply who your audience is.
Yeah, it's infectious.
Really
whatever vibe you give out, like, other people will pick up on it.
Yeah. And I'm really grateful for, the people who have partnered with us, who have done shows with us, and just like have exchanged friendly banter with us. Like, that stuff means so much to you when you're trying to grow and be visible, and if you do it in a natural way, people really like respond to that. So.
Right. So don't force it. Don't be something that you're not. Stick to your theme. Be consistent. Network on social media. Use social media. Please, everybody. Please. If you want to grow as a content creator, I think we can all agree that like social media is necessary in today's age, right? Help further develop your brand. What are some plans you got for 100 Talk Pod, specifically in the draw? I know you got a brand new Twitch series that you're going to be doing tonight, right? After this podcast?
Yeah, I'll talk about that first.
I like it. I'm excited for this one.
What we try and do is we have like a lot of jokes and a lot of just, things that we throw out, phrases and stuff takes hold. Some stuff, takes hold, some stuff doesn't. One of the things we've always joked about is how Jordan and I are both dads, and with the kids, it can be like almost impossible to catch the LCS games live.
Yeah,
right?
I bet.
Because they like tend to happen right when we're either eating dinner or like putting the kids to bed. And like, honestly, like the dad thing is part of our brand too, right?
Yeah, I love it.
One of our Twitch emotes says hi.
I was just about to say it's hi dads. I love it.
So we always made a joke like, once again, can't watch the game, so I'm on VOD squad, right? Like we would say that all the time. and we decided, we've thrown out that name a lot, and we're both not going to be able to watch games when they happen. So why not just like watch them together and hang out and do like a side cast?
Right.
And that idea really comes from, honestly, the first thing I saw that did this that was really gripping for me was 2 years ago during the NBA playoffs. The ESPN crew would do this, where they had like 4 different streams that you could watch
Right.
during a game. There's like different camera angles or whatever, and then one of them was called the sidecast, and it was their most entertaining on-air personalities, who all happen to be podcasters, by the way, and they would be sitting in a room just like joking with each other and hanging out and watching
And just having a good time.
So there's like in the corner of the screen, there's like a small like thing of the game, and then the main camera is just on them hanging out in this room. And I honestly, I loved watching that way more than I loved watching the games. So that's kind of where this idea came from. So we're going to be watching the VOD back, and the VOD will be in the middle of the screen, and then we'll have both of our cams up there, and we'll kind of just be hanging out and joking with each other. It helps that Jordan and I, we've known each other now for 24, 25 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Insane, right? Like we've been good friends since we were in first grade. And so we're able to just like kind of hang, and it's natural, right?
Right.
So we're just going to be doing that. And it's one of those things where even if no one watches it, it's
fun.
cool, because like we're having fun doing it,
right,
and we're going to be watching anyway in that way. So
lets the community see like another part of you too.
Yeah,
which is big. I think Nate Shot does a great job at doing that too, with all the insane amounts of content that he does.
Yeah. So it'll be like, because up to this point, we've got Her Talk, the show, we've got Rec League, which is when we play League together, and it's it's a lot of memeing, but we are trying to play League at the same time.
No, I agree.
Garbage. Then we've got especially that we're garbage. And then we've got the Academy cast, which are like kind of a normal cast in some ways, but a lot of ways we're just like developing the story of 100 Thieves Academy team,
right,
and creating jokes, creating things for the community to do together, right? This cast will be like the least formal out of all of that. Like it'll be the most unorganized thing. It'll just be really us hanging and watching the show. So it should be fun. Other than that, like I said, we've got the birthday of the show is on Monday.
Any special events going on for the big birthday?
We will be doing a giveaway, because we're big on giveaways.
I love it.
You can get your hands on some hot, spicy, sold out 100 T merch through us. So we'll do that, and then we're gonna see about COD, because we did a lot of COD content around the London event, and we kind of pulled off on Anaheim. I think we'll be back for Miami though. So there'll be more COD content coming, where, we'll interview some players, and maybe Mud Dog, maybe Crowder again. So, it's a fun hang.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I will say it's you got to get going for that amazing VOD series pretty soon. So just to wrap up, guys, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast. I know it was quick. It was kind of last minute, mainly for you, Brendan. I love you. I really do. I'm sorry. I won't ever do it again. Maybe. No promises.
Brendan's a real one. He earned the star today.
He really did. He came in last minute, and he's about to go to a party with his handsome haircut that he's got going on right now. But yeah, seriously, guys, please, if you want to listen to a professional podcast, a podcast that talks everything about 100 Thieves, they host giveaway of this beautiful merch from 100 Thieves over here. Check their podcast out. Link is in the Twitch chat. I will be posting it on YouTube, Spotify. You can find them at 100 Talk Pod on Twitter for some glorious meetings. Yeah, we're on Spotify now.
Yeah, good job, everyone.
By the way, guys, we're on Spotify thanks to 100 Talk Pod. He showed me how to do it. So
co-host by the way.
Big credit goes to 100 Talk Pod. I can't thank you guys enough.
Man, it's just been really, really fun. Like I said, you were one of our earliest listeners, earliest supporters, and that goes a long way for us. So it's always like, we love the energy coming in. We want to give that back. You're awesome. We appreciate everything you do. We appreciate how you gas us up all the time for everybody. Yeah, it's just amazing. And like, I think you're a case study, right, on how you want to be online in your interactions with people, because, I can't think of, anything other than a positive interaction I've ever had with you. And that
I
just
appreciate
is
that.
like really fun to have online with people, man. Like that makes it truly feel like a community.
That means a lot.
So then when we're doing stuff like this, it's just I'm hanging with my friends. Like that's what it is. So.
Yeah. No, it's an honor to have you a part of the community. Thank you so much. All right, and we're going to be ending the podcast there. Guys, please, I can't say this enough. Give them a follow. You will not regret it, especially if you're a 100 Thieves fan. Everyone, I hope you have a phenomenal night. I know this was a surprise podcast. The plan is to have the podcast more planned out ahead of time, but we also want to bring on a lot of special guests like 100 Talk Pod to hear their story, and sometimes that can require a little, I guess you could say, improv last minute podcast. So thank you so much for the patience. We'll be improving the quality a lot over the next year. And everyone, have a phenomenal night. And thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Bye,
Man.
everyone.
Have a phenomenal night, everyone.
Have a good night, y'all.
Miss you already.
I miss you already too. I'm gonna be there in a second to watch the VOD series. I cannot wait. I haven't seen the game, and to interact with you guys during the game, I've been wanting to do that for a while.
There we go, man. You got the chance.
Yep, the opportunity is here. All right, everyone, have a great night. Deuces.